BYU's quarterback Kedon Slovis can be the next Brock Purdy. I'm going to tell you why I feel that way and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And as always, guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. I'm here to talk about some sleepers that I watched this week or the last week or so off of the tape and where they stand. And I'm starting out with quarterback from BYU, Kedon Slovis. Is he or could he be the next Brock Purdy? We can get into that. Cornerback Shyheim Battle, a friend of the show from North Carolina State. Going to talk about his game and what I saw on tape and where he fits. And then I'll talk about a safety from Washington, one of those Huskies, Dominique Hampton. But guys, before I get into all of that, got to talk about FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Kedon Slovis, measuring at the combine is 6'2.5", 223 pounds, 9 7/8 on the hand. He ran for a guy that most people may not have projected a blazing 4.55 in the 40 with a 1.58 10-yard split. 1.58, just to put into context, if I remember correctly, I think Nate Wiggins was like a 1.56 or something like that. I think what was it? Adonai Mitchell was a 1.55 or 1.52, somewhere in there, right? Just kind of put the 10-yard split. So similar to what I talked about with Brock Purdy. I think he can be the next Brock Purdy. And what I mean by that is a late round prospect that if you drop them into the most ideal of ideal situations, you're going to have yourself a good starting quarterback and a guy that can help you win and help you get to the postseason and to the promised land if you have the right pieces around them and have elite pieces around them. Similar to Brock Purdy, right? When I watched Kedon Slovis, now guys, just for context, Kedon Slovis has been in college since 2019. That freshman year, right? I think he took over for JT Daniels, who he got hurt back in 2019, over almost 3,500 yards, 4 yards shy of 3,500 passing yards, over 71% completion percentage, about 9 yards per attempt, 30 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but he never gained that stardom back. He got hurt. I believe it was 2020. He got hurt. It was a shoulder injury. And since then, 17 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, right? And, for a guy that he's played, he played 3 years at USC, transferred in 2022 to Pittsburgh, where it was not a good situation for him, and then transferred in 2023 to BYU. Still wasn't the greatest situation. And I remember Brock Purdy's last year or two, I think his last 2 years, he wasn't that great either. But for me, watching Kedon Slovis is the same things I felt about when you watch Brock Purdy. Timing, anticipation, throws a catchable ball, right? Good athlete, able to make those plays. And guys are going to, you're going to run, QB counters, QB power, zone reads with, right? You're not going to run those type of things with them. They're not that caliber of athlete. But the 10-yard split, hey, what's the ideal? What's most first downs? When you got a fresh set of downs, it's 10 yards. And when you have a really good 10-yard split, like both of those guys, you can get up and get out of the pocket, and both of them are able to do that. But just the fact of, like, when you look at their games, it's all predicated on being in the pocket and playing on time, in rhythm, in structure, right? And you, like I said, they are guys who you're not going to win. And I want to preface this: I'm not hating on Brock Purdy. It's just a straight fact. You're not going to win because of. And what I mean by that is, you could take a Josh Allen and put him anywhere, and that team's going to win because of Josh Allen. You could take a Justin Herbert and put him in literally with his talent and skill set in almost any team, and you're going to be able to have a chance to get to the playoffs. Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, right? Like these guys who are top tier quarterbacks, that they're not system and skill position based in terms of how effective they can be. And Kedon Slovis and Brock Purdy on the other spectrum of that, good players, good quarterbacks, but their surrounding and supporting cast will mean so much more for their ability to win and find success than all these other guys with the high octane tools and has shown themselves to be such, right? But that's what I look at when I see Kedon Slovis, right? Brock Purdy was what? Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft. And in that draft, it was him, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, okay, Zach Wilson. Hey, there's only two guys out of that class that's still starting on their teams, and that's Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence. So on the teams that drafted them. So when I look at Kedon Slovis, you're going to see, okay, you're going to see the accuracy, ball placement is good. When he's when timing, like everything is in rhythm, he can do some things, man. He's got some dime throws on tape. But when pressure, same thing with Brock Purdy, when pressure starts to get through, rush throws, putting the ball in harm's way, interceptions, taking sacks, not taking care of the football, and then also tight man-to-man coverage, where it's like, hey, this is a drive throw. Can you drive it, into that tight window in man-to-man? Not anticipate a in breaker versus zone. Okay, none of that. I'm talking man-to-man, or even against zone, where it's too high, it's bracket coverage, or it's cover two, or it's cover three, and you got a robber working down, and you got a spot dropper dropping into the middle of the field. Can you fit it into these tight windows? Brock Purdy does not have the arm talent for that, and neither does Kedon Slovis. Now, I think Kedon Slovis had some of that arm talent prior to the shoulder injury. But when I watched this young man, I'm telling you guys, I was writing it down. I texted my guy Daniel Harms, and shout out to my boy Daniel Harms, and I was like, man, it's like I'm watching Brock Purdy, and I just like, even at Iowa State, that's what I felt like. I was like, okay. And then looking at just the skill set, the tools, and all the good and the bad. I said, man, these guys measure up very well. So when teams that, like, people ask, like, who's the next Josh Allen? Who's the next, Lamar Jackson? Who's the next Pat Mahomes? Who's the next Puka Nacua? Who's the next this, that, the third? We hear some people do ask, who's the next Brock Purdy? The next Brock Purdy is BYU quarterback Kedon Slovis. Guys, I truly believe that he is a guy that I think he could be a high end, or I won't say high end, but I think he could be a good backup quarterback for sure. That whether he's Chase Daniels, whether he's Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, yeah, you can say that because he was kind of a starter backup at times. But that's caliber of player where, hey, he could be a spot starter for you a little bit. But I don't know. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take Ryan Fitzpatrick out of that. Let's put Bailey Zappi in there. I think that's a better situation where he could be a spot starter for you, but he's more than likely a backup, in ideal situations. But in the best, I mean heaven's best, God's blessed best situation, like a Brock Purdy fell into, I think he could be a good starting quarterback for you. If you put him in a situation where he doesn't have a lot of tools, he players around him, offensive line isn't top of the line, run game isn't elite, play caller is so. You're not going to have much success with Kedon Slovis under center for your team. But if you put him in a great situation, I think you could get really good to great results, because again, the things that he does well, he does at a high level. The things that he struggles with, similar to Brock Purdy, he struggles mightily. So at the end of the day, who is the next Brock Purdy? Who can be the next Brock Purdy? Who do I see as the next Brock Purdy in the ideal perfect situation? BYU quarterback Kedon Slovis. But guys, let's get into a friend of the show. You watched him, watched it on YouTube, or you listened to it on the audio side about a month or so ago. We had North Carolina State Wolfpack corner Shyheim Battle. He came on the show. I just did his report over at the Draft Network. I just finished watching him and grading him. We're going to talk about his game and where he fits in. All of that coming up next. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every single game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a number one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's number one sports book, FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Guys, I want to repeat that because I don't know if you heard me clearly enough. Right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. Guys, you can even pick who's gonna win it all. Okay, $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, and you can even pick who's gonna win it all. Just visit fanduel.com/locked-on and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Just visit fanduel.com/locked-on and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. North Carolina State cornerback Shyheim Battle, listed at 6'2", 195 pounds, a young man that has had a good career for the Wolfpack. And guys, when I watched this tape, of course, impressed with the young man himself, the grit, the toughness, the well-spokenness. This is a young man that is a big, physical corner that loves to dictate the action. And you know, when I watch him, his best reps to me is when he's lined up in press or when he can control his hips, or AKA the gate, right? Like where he can control when he opens them, right? When he's patient and he stays square, keeps his pad level low, his hip level low, to where it's either his back pedal or just his shuffle or side saddle in cover three bail tech. He ran, you know, he played off coverage, right? Giving cushion to receivers and playing off. But he also, I think for me, man, he projects so well as and so much better as a developmental bump and run man-to-man corner. That's what I see when I watch him. This is a guy that if he gets his hands on, he can disrupt. He's strong, but also just being able to align himself correctly pre-snap, get hands on, reroute, throw off timing, and then be able to run, and get hip to hip, widen the receiver to the sideline using his frame and his arm length and his wingspan and everything. I do think that, we're talking about cover 4, cover 3, even some cover 2 type of coverages in zone and everything. You think about underneath responsibilities, right? His click and close is really good. A guy that plants that foot, drives downhill with a violent intent, a zone identifier. He identifies screens very well in terms of being able to play from depth and know, okay, bubble screen is coming, wide receiver screen is coming, smoke screen is coming, halfback screen, right? Screen to the running back is coming. And he does such a great job firing downhill, avoiding blocks and blockers, and then making the play, right? He doesn't mind hitting. He's a physical guy, but I think he's a corner that it does bring that scheme versatility. I do believe he could play press man. I think he can develop into a good press man corner, but again, playing from depth, right? Where he can dictate the action. Think kind of half zone turn back to the sideline type of pre-snap alignment, give him about 6-7 yards a cushion. You want to basically dictate and illustrate to the quarterback and to the offense, hey, just a heads up, you are not going to get the ball over my head in these situations because I have deep responsibilities. But if you throw that slant, I'm triggering downhill, and I'm gonna lay a big hit on your receiver, right? I'm gonna play through the hands. A young man that knows how to disrupt at the catch point. One of the main things I think he needs to improve on when he is playing, doesn't matter if it's press man or off ball, and playing more cushion coverage, off coverage, quarters, whatever, I cover 4. I think he needs to learn how to locate the football better down the field, right? It's one thing to be in position. It's another thing to locate the football. A lot of times guys panic. And once they get back in phase or they're in phase, they don't look for the ball, right? And that's what could turn you from a solid corner to a good corner. If you can get more and more PBUs because you see the ball coming and you make a play, even if you don't, corral it for an interception. But then when you start turning those good position plays into turnovers and everything and take the ball away, that's when you go from good to great, right? Great to elite, so forth and so on, to where then teams are like, man, I don't want to target this guy. and he showcased good footwork and everything, but and patience. But he does stay in his back pedal too long, allows guys to gear up to full speed and really attack his hips and his leveraging in off coverage against man. He has to improve in terms of at the line of scrimmage, knowing what hand to use when you're going to press and when you're going to use bump and run, play bump and run, and use jam technique. You can't just get up there and shoot the inside hand and lock your hip, and now a guy, double hand swipes you or swim moves you inside, crosses your face, and they're running the slant, and now it's going to take more effort to then unlock your hip and turn and rotate your body and get back into a turn and run position to try and get back in phase. His closing burst is really, really good. A guy that can close distances well. You talk about even if he's beat initially on if he's playing, cover 3 side saddle and it's an end breaker, or quarters out of side saddle as well. He opens that hip and kind of drops off, but he's kind of scooch technique in it as well. And they're running an in route or something like that, or in breaker. He can close on that very well. Does a good job being able to hinge routes from zone coverages as well, and take away leverage and space and cut that down. And there's plenty of plays on tape, especially in zone or in off coverage, where Shaheen is basically he's in the position to where he deters the quarterback from throwing the football, and that's a really good thing to have. Now he was beaten down the field against man-to-man, per Sports Info Solutions, right? In 2023, he had 159 coverage snaps in man-to-man. He was targeted 29 times. 19 were catchable. He only allowed 12 completions, but he allowed 12 completions for 250 yards. He had 2 touchdowns allowed and 1 interception, right? 2 pass deflections. So you say, man, they targeted him almost 30 times. He only allowed a little over 10, right? 12 receptions, but it's the yardage. When he allowed them, he did get beat deep. So that's where, the long speed is a concern for him. And that's why I think day 3 is where he's probably going to hear his name and everything. Because again, that speed, there's some segmented, hip swivel movements and everything. But I think this is a tough kid. As you guys heard him speak and everything, well-spoken, intelligent, high football IQ. I think he has the good eyes and vision to read routes and hit his landmarks and, understand the concepts that they're trying to throw at him, but also being able to play half and half, or the half man, where if he's in zone and he's kind of a low hanging defender, whether it's cover 2, whatever, or if they're running cover 6 and he's the curl of flats guy, he'll play that. You think about smash concept, you got the quick hitch, and you got the slot running a corner or 7 route to the boundary, to the sideline. He'll play that so well because he'll sit right in the middle, and because he can close and make a big hit on the hitch, quarterbacks kind of they're hesitant. Their anxiety goes up. You can tell they get a little antsy, I don't trust this. Because then if you try to throw over his head, he is 6'2". He can, he does have solid leaping ability and solid arm length as well. So he can go up and make some plays on the ball. So at the end of the day, guys, I think this is a day 3 prospect that you draft. He's going to be a good depth piece, but there's a developmental upside. Again, working on the press man technique stuff, working on getting out, turning and running a little earlier out of the back pedal when he does play, kind of like quarters coverage, and he's just in his back pedal. Don't allow these guys to get full speed up on you, because with the transitional rigidness or segmented transitional movements with his hips at times, I don't want him in that situation a lot. I think cover 3, cover 4, cover 2, but I do think that he could be a solid man-to-man guy that could develop into effective man-to-man bump and run type of corner, and just get up at the line of scrimmage, play physical. You keep a safety over the top, play some 2-man under, 2-man trail. I think you got yourself a winner there. But guys, we're going to get into another defensive back, Washington safety Dominique Hampton. Is he another day 3 guy that has some upside? We're going to talk about him coming up next. Thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. Dominique Hampton, safety from Washington, another under the radar, kind of underrated prospect. To me, he's a day 3 guy that you want to develop into kind of a chess piece type of player. when you look at, he got on my radar really from the combine. Okay, he jumped onto my radar at the combine. Came into the combine listed at 6'2", 215 pounds. So he already has an NFL ready frame and body, right? 33 and a quarter on the arm. Okay. But to go with that, at 6 foot, what did I say? 6'2"? Guys, listen to me, man. 6'2", he has a 6'7" wingspan. All right. 10-inch hands. He tested at 4.51 in the 40, 1.55 10-yard split, 39-inch vert, a 10.2 in the broad. Yes, guys, this young man has shown some good things, especially at the combine, to really gain and garner attention, right? And for me, the physical tools are there. The physical tools are there. He lined up all over the defense and in that secondary. So you're talking about football instincts, or football IQ, I'm sorry. We're talking about playing free safety, strong safety, single high, split safeties, walking down into the nickel, being that low hole run defender. He's an alley runner. He doesn't mind, running the alley in terms of the run game. When you got to seal, you got an alley, you got a running back hitting it. He doesn't mind coming in to clog in the alley and creating some chaos there for the running back. Young man that, to me, he showcases some solid ability in man-to-man coverage, playing a lot of off technique, off man-to-man and everything. I do feel like he is someone that can be a +1 in the run game. I feel like he gives you, especially for zone teams, cover 3 teams, you got that strong safety, and you want to bring them in. I think about a team like the Baltimore Ravens. In 2023, we know that when you watch Kyle Hamilton, he's everywhere, right? And I think he is the new safety prototype. I'm going to say that. Kyle Hamilton is the new safety prototype, where you're not looking for the Ed Reeds and the Troy Polamalu's who, I would say you're not looking for the Ed Reeds. Troy did a lot. Troy was everywhere, right? We all know Troy was everywhere. But I think Kyle Hamilton is the new prototype, where you're looking for that guy that can play in the nickel, okay, man up some tight ends and some receivers, blitz, +1 in the run game, drop off into zones, walk back into too high. And he's one of those guys where, and honestly, the Ravens didn't need a true nickel corner because Kyle Hamilton was their nickel corner. Now, I'm not comparing Dominique Hampton to Kyle Hamilton, but what I'm saying is that's the new prototype, where you look at these safeties, the Brian Branches and what he's able to do. Same thing, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. These guys being able to move around and be chess pieces. And the Ravens in 2023, Kyle Hamilton listed as a safety, but he was in the nickel a lot. What did we see at the top of the formation, top of the defense? You saw Marcus Williams, you saw Geno Stone. So they would walk out in nickel and dime, and they would play 3 safeties on the field. Dominique Hampton gives you the developmental upside there because of his athleticism, his height, and his frame. You gotta, I think for me, it's more trusting what he sees, okay, triggering, getting in and out quickly in terms of his footwork. He gets flat-footed in his reads a lot of times in off coverage, and that messes things up because, again, similar to Shaheen, don't allow these guys to run full speed, right? They got a runway at you, okay? You don't want that. You don't want to have to be put in that type of situation, but just watching him and seeing what he brings to the table, guys, I'm telling you right now, this is a developmental prospect that I think has some solid upside. Of course, you can think about him being a depth player, special teams. He can do those things for you. He's a physical hitter. He will strike the ball carriers and receivers. But I love him as a cover 3 low hole safety. That's why I think you can get the best out of him, man, where he's walked up and he drops off into a spot, robber technique, robber coverages, be able to get into those short to intermediate passing lanes. I absolutely think that Dominique Hampton could have some good success in the NFL defense. Again, that kind of safety 3, safety 4, depending on how good your safety room is, but especially as a safety 3, and for defenses that want to go to more, if you have all those versatile defensive backs in your safety room, he's a guy that can see the field and help you and be effective there. Like I said, he lines everywhere. Nickel, too high, single high, kind of a box guy. Walk down into the box. He does everything, man. And like I said, the tape doesn't match the athletic profile. So I feel like there is just some mental things where it's just like, I want him to see it quicker, trust what he's doing, and be more reactive from an and play to that athleticism. He has recovery speed. Remember, I was watching, I think it was against Michigan, Blake Corum, who ran a 4.53. Blake Corum broke free. I thought Blake was going to house it because He was kind of more on the hash when Blake broke out and bounced it outside, and Hampton walked him down, ran him down. He has a couple other plays where he has the recovery speed, enough recovery speed to make those game-saving push out of bounds or tackles, to those touchdown saving plays where he does not allow the guy to just. He uses solid angles, in recovery angles. His overall pursuit angles needs work as well. But overall, guys, I think this is a player that, again, day 3, 5th round, you get him and you say, okay, let's figure out how we want to use him, see where we can develop him and where we can take his game to the next level, see where he can grow, and then devise that role for him and just run with that, guys. But listen, we talked about safety. Dominique Hampton from Washington, cornerback, friend of the show, Shyheim Battle from North Carolina State, and BYU Pittsburgh Panther and USC Trojan quarterback Kedon Slovis. Maybe the next Brock Purdy if he fell into the right situations. But guys, thank y'all so much for tapping in with us here on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, Keith will be back. He's not only did my guy, my partner in crime, not only did he just run to LSU's Pro Day, but he's at the Big 12 Pro Day circuit as well. So he'll have so much for us next week. But guys, happy Friday. Have a great weekend. And again, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.